My name is Zara Farber. I'm from Jefferson County and I'm 17 years old. I mostly write fiction short stories. I've been really into The Catcher in the Rye, Jane Eyre, Brave New World, and I noticed that a lot of these books were written decades and even hundreds of years ago, but they still talk about issues that I connect with today, and the humans that were alive then are the same humans that exist now. I've been writing ever since I can remember. Ever since I was a really small child, I've been a very vivid daydreamer. I see daydreaming in everywhere in everyday life. I see it in people's clothes. I see it in the way that people talk. I see like scenes just play out and I just like save them in my noggin for later. Writing for me has let me turn everyday reality, which I often consider very mundane and boring, into something that I think is interesting, something that I want to read about and that other people want to read about. I have a list of ideas in my notebook, and anytime I think of anything that inspires me, it could be a word, it could be a fairy tale, it could be a sentence. A girl in my class said, "I almost drowned in a fake mermaid tale once," and I was thinking that that would be a really interesting poem, so I wrote it down. Don't waste your time narrowing on little details. You're able to write a lot faster, and you can come back to it later and flesh it out. You just need to get through it and not hone in on really small details. Here, especially since we're not competing with each other, we can share our writing. We can be very vulnerable, and we can listen to their feedback because we know that they want the best for us and we want the best for them. In one poem I recently wrote, I explore gender norms and why women often feel that they're not feminine if they don't follow what a society deems as feminine features. I actually think that school has made me write less. As you go through high school, as you grow up, you tend to kind of lose that passion. It starts to look like it's unimportant. I incorporate themes such as loneliness and alienation into my writing. I want to live in a different state, maybe even a different country. Recently, I went on a trip to Chicago, and I went on one of those ferry rides where you go through the river and you look at all the architecture. I noticed that the environment of how the different workers interacted was really interesting. A lot of them were teenagers. I curated Pinterest boards. I made playlists. Being able to visualize and make the world building of a story dictates how the reader visualizes the story. I was trying to come up with the characters. Maybe for like a teenage boy, he would be listening to the Red Hot Chili Peppers. For someone a little bit older, they would be listening to music from the 60s. Maybe they would be listening to like Motown. I tried to curate who these people are outside of the plot and outside of the story. I want to see more live music. I'm not like a very like spiritual person, but like live music is something that makes me feel very spiritual. Hearing music being played right in front of me gives me a feeling that like nothing else gives me. I'm happy that I have a really vivid imagination, but there's also an anxiety of wasting something that you're good at because you forgot about it. Michael Jackson had that theory that if he didn't write a song the moment that he thought of it, God would give it to Prince. That's how I feel about writing, because a lot of times I have an idea where I think, oh, this would be an amazing story, this would be an amazing plot, this would be a really interesting character. But if I don't immediately write that down, I completely forget about it. A lot of times when I write, I try to match the music to what I'm writing, because when I listen to music, I see those images in my head. If I'm listening to like pop EDM and I'm writing about sailors and pirates in the 1800s, then what I visualize in my head isn't going to match the words I'm writing. I'm interested in journalism. Journalism is obviously something that has existed for hundreds of years. Sometimes I will find a source from like the 1700s that some journalist thought this was important enough to document, so they wrote a newspaper article about it. And they probably didn't know that students like me in the future in Louisville, Kentucky are going to be reading that piece of information. I really like the quote, "Be yourself, everybody else is already taken." I've often tried to like mold myself into what does the best version of Zara look like, but at the end of the day, I just need to be Zara, and I don't need to change myself to be a different version of me. In the river, she crossed the truth. You know those girls, their braids and bangs a whiff of blossoms. A graceful stretch, their skin shines like copper, hiding the cuts and razor burns of the past. She adjusts her posture, straight, straighter. Her spine will crack and reattach, a smile tugging just for you. You know those girls, their cracked backbones stick out like a sore thumb. With every step they take, a shivering crack and snap follows. A heavy beating in her chest, a heavy sigh. She stumbles and groans, collapsing on the floor. She moans and groans, an open wound, and lets herself go. She strips down to her dry, flaky skin. Hunched over, she crossed to the river. Her woolly fur collects the filth and grime of the dirty Ohio River. She snarls and pouts. She needs to feed. She trudges the water, snarling through her fangs. You know those girls.